I am with Barbra Bukovac. Barb has been in a couple of prior vlogs. I think this is the first major speaking role that she's
And I think the first one internationally as well.
Right, and so we are in Geneva, Switzerland, and the cafeteria you'll see behind us. It's late in the afternoon. Nobody's eating apparently. Barb, you've added some titles since the last time you appeared in the vlog. Barb is now a vice chairperson?
Vice chairman.
Vice chairman. We don't call them chairpersons?
No, we don't. I'm the regional vice chairman for the Central and Midwest region.
And but Barb is a tax partner, grew up as a tax partner, and now your role kind of expands beyond tax, right? All of our lines of service, assurance, advisory, and tax all kind of report up through Barb. So congratulations.
Well, thank you.
How long have you been doing this role now?
It's been about 3 months.
Those 3 months.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to talk to Barb because Barb is somebody who has been just a great spokesman for the firm on social media, just really introspective, a big advocate for women, and somebody who I admire and think of as having a very strong personal brand. And so this week we're talking about personal branding. And what does personal brand mean to you? And how do you think of the term, and why is it important?
Well, personal brand is really what people think about you in terms of you know, what you're bringing to the table and what you want to be known for. And I think that personal brand changes over time. So maybe when I started my career, I was thinking about my personal brand as being from the University of Illinois and being an accounting major and being a hard worker and being from Champaign, Illinois. So, you know, that was kind of how I developed my personal brand when I first started.
Where you're from really reflects that, right? It's one of the first things
difference.
that makes you connected, and then you've got other colleagues and the like. And so, you know, I think when you're coming right out of school, you would tend to associate yourself with that, and that really becomes a piece of that brand that you have.
Exactly. But it does change over time. And I think it's really critical that you invest in yourself in terms of developing that personal brand. And part of it is within yourself, but it's also in how you're helping others to develop their personal brands. And I think that that's really something that I've very much focused on from a longer term perspective, but recognizing that it was critical for me to do that when I was coming up the ladder at PwC in terms of thinking about what the next opportunities were and making sure that, that the brand that I was developing was one that you know, would be consistent with the types of opportunities that I wanted to be positioned for.
So what are some things that the young people new in their careers can do, and what should they be focused on as they're trying to build a personal brand? You know, social media is so big now, and people want to say, well, I need to build this brand on social media. But I mean, is that really where you start? Is it more just in meetings and how you present yourself? I mean, talk a little bit. What if you're in your career, you want to be noticed, right?
Yeah.
But you want to do a great job, and so how do you start to build that brand?
Yeah, I think probably most people that are watching this vlog do have an online presence, which is, as Doug says, is a personal brand. And so you do have to be cognizant of what you're posting to make sure that that's consistent with the image that you want to provide to others, and that it's consistent in terms of from a personal perspective as well as a professional perspective in terms of the image that you want to project. I think that's really critical, especially as we think about how easy it is for people to find out information about us through social media. So that's one area, but I do think you hit on some other areas that are very critical. One is that you know, when you think about your executive presence, that is really critical, and you should start developing that now. I mean, you know, whether it's through your communication style, whether it's through your mannerisms, the listening techniques, that's really critical when dealing with teams of people, and communication style. I also think appearance is very important in terms of being consistent with, again, the brand that you're trying to project. I also think what is very important is the people that you're associating yourselves with. Usually the brand of those people also can help you in areas that, you know, you might want to increase, you know, in terms of impact or what have you, that you can get some assistance from others who have a very strong personal brand. And I think that as I've moved along in my career, that's been very helpful to me in terms of the network that I've had and the strong personal brand, whether it be technical expertise or whether it's diversity or communication style or being great with clients. I've really tried to take some of the learnings from other partners and other professionals that I've worked with, and really tried to use that to help me, as well as in many cases, those professionals have also helped me in increasing my personal brand.
Yeah, so I'd like to explore that. But before we move on to that, I think sometimes when we talk about personal brand, we think of the macro, this, what's your Twitter presence or, whatever. But particularly for young people, and not even really for young people, the personal brand really starts with, how do you interact with your bosses? How do you interact with your clients? How do you interact with your peers and the other people on your team? Right, in my view, that's really the most important thing, is that you want to establish a brand with those people, a reputation, so that they know that you're a hard worker and a nice person and fun and everything else. And I think sometimes it's really easy to get focused on kind of the macro aspect of a personal brand, when really you want to impress and you want to make not necessarily impress, but you want to be able to be distinctive, in your work and be known for something, and be the person that whatever the task is, that they come to you, for that particular work. And some of the things that I've done in my career, and particularly early in my career, was just trying to be communicative. A lot of the things that we've actually talked about in the Doug McConey blog: being transparent, being communicative, being respectful, and just so that when people knew that when they would come to me to do something, I was gonna, hopefully that they knew that they were going to get a quality product, right? A quality work product, and that can be as little as a spreadsheet, right, or whatever your task is. And so it doesn't have to be, something much bigger.
Right. And I think for all of us, we're all different, and we all have different characteristics that we're trying to accentuate as part of our own personal brands, and that's where you should focus, versus, as Doug's saying, kind of making it too broad or too big, where you're really not known for something. And so I agree with you. I think kind of in at the beginning of your career, things like being hardworking and being consistent and having high quality are very critical, and also showing up. Ready to go, and being somebody's right arm, if you will, in terms of being a very dependable person. That can be critical in terms of what you start with, and then that becomes a situation which is just expected. And so after you have that kind of performance, and you're really looking to move up and having more responsibilities and differentiating yourself, that's where you really need to look internally in terms of what really motivates you. And when I think about myself,
what do you do now? What do you do now in your current role to manage your personal brand?
Part of it is, are things that I like to do and what I feel I'm good at. And I think that what I enjoy is working with teams. I love that. I love trying to take us to a higher level, and always thinking about kind of what's next, and working with clients. That is what I'm passionate about. And so when I think about my personal brand, it is energy, it's passion for the business, it is being fun. I think I'm not the typical accountant.
Right. Me either.
but and really trying to have fun with the job. So I think that from a professional perspective, that is what I bring to the table. But it's also that I think I'm a direct communicator, and that I have high standards. And so I think that that's another area where as I develop my own personal brand, but one. I think the thing that falls from that is that I have a lot of people that then want to work with me, and that's I think that's a really great balance of the personal brand.
So Barb, one of the things that I've noticed about you, you've been just a fantastic mentor, particularly to other women within the organization, and really teaching confidence, not just women, but to your entire teams. What advice do you have to the women in the audience as far as what they can do to try to increase their personal brands, and what experiences have you had with that, and why does that maybe make it more difficult, if at all, for women to be able to have that kind of personal brand and be advocates for themselves in that area?
Well, I think that I have confidence today that I really didn't have when I first started my career. I mean, even though, I was a good student and got a job at Price Waterhouse at that point, and I felt very confident about that. I didn't really have the confidence in all of the experience yet, because I really had very limited experience. And so it really was building, my capabilities, being very open to assignments, and really communicating with others to make sure that that I was meeting expectations and getting that feedback very openly. But I do think that, and it's been shown in research, that women are generally not as confident in their own abilities, especially if they haven't had that particular experience. They aren't saying, well, of course I can do that, just because I've historically been able to do similar tasks in the past. And so part of our responsibility, and I feel like it's really part of my responsibility in coaching other women, is to provide the confidence in them that they might not think that they have in themselves. And so really trying to push them to a next level where they're still comfortable, but yet, and being there as kind of the fallback person. Right. But yet, really pushing them such that they then do have the confidence that they can be successful. And I really feel like I've had a lot of other partners do that for me. And so I feel a responsibility to do that for others. I mean, I think that's really important, and not just kind of stepping back or leaning back when the opportunities come up, but really putting your hand up in the air and saying, you know what, I think I can do that, and I want to be given the chance. I think for all of us, we really need to continue to challenge ourselves, but we also need to help others in recognizing their strengths.
That's leadership. All right, now last question for you, Barb. This does not relate it to personal brand, but yeah. if you could give yourself some advice, back to the just coming out of college, just starting with Price Waterhouse, Barbra Bukovac, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Well, it's funny because when Doug asked me to talk about personal brand, this is an area that when I think about the advice that I give to my two daughters, one who's 21, so just starting into the workforce after she graduates from college, and then my younger daughter right now, we've talked about personal brand quite a bit. And the critical need for that, in thinking about that, being very thoughtful about it. And it's not saying that you're going to have that kind of on the day that you start in your role, but that you are considering it, and because it is individual to you, and so the sooner that you can be working on your own personal brand, probably the better. I think we do have more tools now via digital and social media that you can probably accelerate that path a little bit faster than we might have been able to historically. I do think though the network is really critical, and surrounding yourself with people that have brands that you believe are ones that very similar to what you would like to become, and I think being able to leverage that and communicate that you're interested in that. That would be some advice that I would give to my younger self. Nice. To get there maybe a little bit quicker. But on the other hand, I really appreciate the fact that I feel like the firm has given me a lot of really great opportunities, as you said, Doug, in terms of recognizing the roles that I would like to be playing and giving me those opportunities. And so, I mean, no regrets here.
That's great.
But if you could do it a little bit faster. And I have been giving the advice to others on the digital side, on the social media side, because I do think that is a real opportunity to reach a lot of people very quickly in terms of being able to show expertise in certain areas, whether it's technical expertise or about just telling your story. And I think a lot of times people do want to hear the stories because they want to hear how you got there, and there's some really great learnings from those that I think sometimes we need to sit down and reflect about how we can then help others through being a storyteller.
And check out Barbara's LinkedIn page. I'll link it below. And some really thoughtful pieces on mentorship and leadership that I'd like to share, and then also include Barbara's Twitter account. Barbra Bukovac, Vice Chairman of PwC, tax partner, friend. Barb, thanks for joining the Doug
Thanks, Doug.
McConaughey vlog.
All right, thanks
Appreciate
much.
it.
Okay.